In the village of Kumasi, there lived a popular food vendor called Zara. Zara was a beautiful woman, widely known in the village for her delicious and tasty meals. She had a food store at the village market. Zara was very proud of her cooking and always strived to be the best cook in the entire village. Everyone sang praises of how tasty Zara's food was, and customers flocked to her store from every part of the village, including women, children, and especially married men. There was a secret, though a strange one, about Zara's food. The secret was that whenever a married man tasted Zara's food, he would never want to eat his wife's meal at home again. Every day, the married men of the village gathered at Zara's restaurant to eat her food, preferring it over their wives' cooking. Many times, when their wives served them food at home, they would refuse, saying, "I cannot eat this food. It is not as delicious as Zara's. You need to learn how to cook like her, because I cannot be eating tasteless food when Zara's restaurant is there." This continued in almost every household in the village. The married men no longer ate their wives' food. They preferred Zara's meals for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. This caused a lot of misunderstandings in their homes. The men even went as far as telling their wives to go to Zara and learn how to cook from her, wondering how Zara made her meals so tasty and delicious. The wives of these married men could no longer tolerate this situation. They decided to have a meeting to figure out what they could do to make their husbands return to eating their meals. As they gathered in the village square, they started asking each other, "What do you think we should do, my fellow women?" One of them suggested, "I think we should go and find out what Zara uses in her meals that our husbands no longer eat from us." Another woman suggested that Zara might have a secret ingredient and that they should spy on her. After deliberating for some time, they decided that spying wasn't the solution. Instead, they agreed to go to Zara's restaurant and humbly beg her to stop serving their husbands. They all agreed to this plan and headed to Zara's restaurant. When they arrived, they started to speak to her. One of the women said, "Zara, please, we are here to beg you. We know you are the best cook in the village, we are not doubting that, but please stop serving our husbands your meals. Whenever they come to your restaurant, could you direct them back home to eat our meals instead? Our husbands no longer eat from us, and it is affecting our marriages. We have come to you as fellow women to help us in this situation." Zara responded, "What do you mean by that? Are you asking me to chase away my customers just so your husbands will eat at home? Am I the one who told you not to know how to cook? Did I drag your husbands to my restaurant? Please, if you have nothing meaningful to say, leave my restaurant. I am a very busy person." The women continued to plead with Zara, but she chased them away, telling them to figure out how to keep their husbands at home and not to disturb her again. The women left Zara's restaurant feeling frustrated and disappointed. They were helpless and didn't know what to do, so they all went back home, hoping that one day the secret to Zara's meals would be revealed and their husbands would return to them. Zara's business continued to flourish, with more and more customers coming in every day. Almost all the men in the village now gathered at her restaurant daily. A particular married woman in the village, named Amine, who had been married for less than 6 months, started having issues in her home. Her husband had started eating Zara's meals from the very first day he tasted her food, and he no longer ate Amina's cooking. She was puzzled by this and decided to visit her father in the neighboring village to explain what was happening. Amine said to herself, "I cannot take this anymore. My marriage is not even 6 months old, and now my husband no longer eats my food. I will talk to my father for help." Amina's father was a spiritualist with the power to foresee things, so she set out to the neighboring village to speak with him. When she arrived, she said, "Father, your daughter is not happy. My husband no longer eats my food. There's a popular food vendor in Kumasi whose meals my husband enjoys, and this is causing problems in my marriage. Please help your daughter." Amina's father set to work immediately. He consulted his oracle and saw that Zara was a strong case to handle. So he decided to visit the restaurant himself. When Amina's father arrived at Zara's restaurant, his eyes locked onto Zara's smile, and he knew she was aware of who he was. Zara said to Amina's father, "Ah, Baba, you are welcome to my restaurant. You're just in time for a special treat. My food is the most delicious in the village." Zara held a steaming bowl of her famous food, and Amina's father's stomach growled in anticipation. His mouth watered at the aroma, but he knew better than to accept her offer. Amina's father said, "Zara, I need to speak with you." And Zara responded with a smile, "Of course, Baba. I'm always happy to help. But first, let me offer you a bowl of my delicious food. Once you taste it, you will never be the same again." Amina's father replied, "The main reason I am here is for you to confess. Zara, you know what you have been doing in this village, and I am here to make sure your secret is exposed. If you don't confess, you will regret it." Zara became defensive and said, "I don't know what you're talking about. In this restaurant, all we do is sell delicious food. I'm sure you've heard about me by now. So I don't know what you're saying. Don't come to my store to accuse me wrongly. If you want to eat, please eat. And if you don't spoil my business. Just get up and leave." Amina's father warned her again. "Zara, I am giving you one last chance. You're causing so much pain in marriages through your food. Men no longer eat their wives' food. Confess now before I make it an open case." Zara dismissed him, saying, "You're just being paranoid. Old man, what is all this talk about me holding on to people's husbands? Am I the one who told their wives not to know how to cook? I don't know what you're talking about." Realizing how stubborn Zara was, Amina's father decided to perform a silent incantation to compel her to confess. As soon as he touched Zara, she began to scream, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yes. 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 I will confess. I've been using my menstrual flow in my meals to make all the married men in the village crave only my food." Zara then explained why she had resorted to such an evil act. Long ago, she had been a woman in her late 40s, desperately seeking a husband. However, every suitor who came to her turned her down because of her size. The younger, slimmer girls in the village mocked her, making her feel even more pain. The final straw was when a suitor arrived to ask for her hand in marriage, but suddenly changed his mind and chose a slim girl from the crowd instead. The villagers mocked Zara, saying she was cursed and would never find a husband who loved her. In her despair, she visited a spiritualist who told her to use her menstrual flow in a local pot and add it to the meals she cooked. The spiritualist promised that any married man who tasted her food would never want to eat his wife's cooking again. That was how Zara started using her menstrual flow as a secret ingredient in her cooking, causing the married men in Kumasi to forsake their wives' meals for hers. After confessing, Zara pleaded with the villagers to forgive her, explaining that she had acted out of frustration and pain. However, the villagers were enraged and chased her away, vowing to banish her from Kumasi forever. Zara was banished from the village, and that was how the secret of Zara's meals was exposed. The moral of this story is that we should all be careful about what we eat and where we eat, especially if we are unsure of the source. Additionally, we should never repay evil with evil. Everything in life has its time, and we should always wait for God's appointed time. Fighting back with evil only leads to more harm.